What if Tanjiro had activated the Demon Slayer mark in episode 1? Well, I spent weeks researching all the possible outcomes and have found 3 ways the story most likely would play out, starting with the most unlikely and ending with the most likely. And for the first theory, Tanjiro's story ends pretty quickly. Now, you might be a bit confused, but let me explain. You see, gaining the mark so early on means that Tanjiro would be a lot stronger. If he'd had the mark since episode 1, he most likely would have had it since birth like Yoriichi. It's also safe to assume that he'd have access to the transparent world and selfless state just like Yoriichi did. Okay, so, Tanjiro is running down the mountain with Nezuko on his back and they run into Giyu, the water Hashira. The story here goes on as normal until things take a drastic turn during the fight against Giyu. In the fight with Giyu, Tanjiro actually manages to win and kill Giyu. You might be thinking that this is impossible because he's the water Hashira. But remember, Tanjiro almost did manage to kill him with the axe he threw in the normal version. Now this might seem like a good thing for Tanjiro, right? Wrong. With Giyu now dead, Tanjiro never learns that demons can't survive in sunlight and never meets Urokodaki in order to become a demon slayer. After Giyu's death, it's very likely that either Nezuko kills Tanjiro due to Tanjiro not knowing how to handle a demon, or that one of the other Hashira come to seek out Tanjiro in order to get revenge for their fallen comrade. I mean, think about it. Would the Hashira just let him get away so easily? Nezuko would also probably die by sunlight or get slain by another Hashira. All of this would in turn lead to a ton of massive consequences for the Demon Corps and the rest of the world. Without the strength of Tanjiro, the Demon Slayers would all probably be wiped out one by one. As for Zenitsu and Inosuke, they probably would meet but won't become friends. In the battle with the Spider Demon Father, Inosuke would most likely die due to Giyu not being there to save him. Zenitsu would later die in the Entertainment District arc in the fight with Gyutaro and Daki along with Tengen and his wives. In the end, Muzan and his upper moons managed to defeat the entire Demon Slayer Corps, and later take over the world as there's no longer anyone to stop him. Okay, this version of the story is very unlikely to happen, but for this second theory, things get a lot more interesting, and it doesn't end the way you might think. Okay, so, in the fight with Giyu, the Water Hashira is impressed by Tanjiro's skills and sends the letter to Urokodaki, who later starts to train Tanjiro, like in the anime. Now, Tanjiro being a lot stronger would mean that he quickly would master water breathing and breeze through the training with Urokodaki in the final selection. Fast forward to the Mount Natagumo arc, Tanjiro would, with the help of Inosuke, easily kill the Spider Demon Father, which in turn means that both Inosuke and Tanjiro are present for the fight with Rui, the Lower Moon 5 Demon. This fight would also be a lot easier, partly because Inosuke is there and partly because of Tanjiro's immense strength due to the mark. Their recovery in the Butterfly Mansion arc would also be a lot faster. The trio would later be sent to the Mugen Train, which is where things start to get interesting. Together with Rengoku, the trio makes quick work of Enmu and moves on to a fight with Akaza. Rengoku and Tanjiro put up insane resistance against the fight with Akaza, and in the end, they manage to bring him down. In this version, they bring him down without Rengoku dying. Akaza's death would obviously alarm Muzan and make him furious, which leads him to holding an Upper Moon meeting. Moving on to the Entertainment District arc, things would change quite a lot here. The arc would start off as usual, with Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu infiltrating 3 different houses. Everything would go on as normal until the fight against Daki and Gyutaro starts. At this point, Tanjiro is incredibly powerful and easily beheads Daki. After Daki gets beheaded, Gyutaro appears and he too gets absolutely outclassed by Tanjiro and Tengen, and within a small amount of time, Gyutaro gets beheaded. In this scenario, Tengen doesn't get as badly injured as he does in the original anime. This means that he never retires, and the Demon Slayer Corps have one more Hashira that they wouldn't have normally. At this moment in time, both Rengoku and Tengen are alive and well simply because Tanjiro was born with the Demon Slayer mark. Later on in the Swordsmith Village arc, everything would play out mostly the same, except that it would go a lot better and faster for the Demon Slayers, as Tanjiro basically has mastered sun breathing at this point. Now, this is where the story takes a crazy turn. You see, at this point, Tanjiro will be almost as strong as the legendary Yoriichi, the man that almost managed to kill Muzan. The Demon Slayer Corps would also be a lot stronger due to the fact that both Rengoku and Tengen are still alive and working as Demon Slayers. Muzan, of course, would notice this and do what? Go into hiding, of course. Remember, this is the same thing that happened when he realized that Yoriichi was too strong to handle. He went into hiding only to come back after being 100% certain that Yoriichi was no longer a threat. He'd simply go into hiding until Tanjiro and the current Demon Slayer Corps were all dead, and then reappeared to continue his search for the Blue Spider Lily. In this version, all the Demon Slayers survive and live happy lives until the day Muzan comes back to haunt the next generations. If you want to stop Muzan, you should press the juicy red subscribe button down below. Finally, let's move on to the most likely theory. And in this theory, Tanjiro doesn't end up training with Urokodaki. Okay, Tanjiro is yet again running down the mountain with Nezuko on his back and runs into Giyu. Tanjiro's crazy strength makes the fight very tough for Giyu, but in the end, Giyu wins. However, Giyu is incredibly impressed by Tanjiro's strength and decides to make an absolutely insane decision. He decides to train Tanjiro and makes him his Sugoku instead of sending him to Urokodaki. Nezuko, on the other hand, still gets sent to Urokodaki. The training under Giyu would go as smoothly as ever. Tanjiro would easily master water breathing and move on to the final selection exam. One important detail here is that Tanjiro would never be asked to cut a boulder in half as he did with Urokodaki. This would mean that he might never meet Sabito and Makomo, which is pretty sad. Tanjiro would breeze through the final selection, easily beheading the demons that killed Sabito and later easily chopping off the heads of the lower moon Rui and the spider demon father even before Giyu and Shinobu arrives. Due to Tanjiro being way stronger than Rui, he doesn't unlock his sun breathing just yet as he wasn't pushed to his limits. Moving on to the Mugen Train arc, things go even better here, and Tanjiro cuts off Enmu's head without any problems. But when Akaza comes, things get a bit harder. Rengoku and Tanjiro manage to push Akaza to his limits and put up an insane fight. In the end, Tanjiro gets flashbacks from his late father performing the Hinokami Kagura just like he did at Mount Naragumo in the original anime, unlocks sun breathing, and manages to cut off Akaza's head. This time without Rengoku having to die. Now at the Hashira meeting, Kaguya notices the mark on Tanjiro's forehead and explains to him his importance for the Demon Slayer Corps. Tanjiro's strength gets acknowledged by Kaguya here, and he becomes the Sun Hashira. Crazy, I know! Fast forward to the Entertainment District arc, Tanjiro with the help of Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Tengen make quick work of Daki. When Gyutaro appears, things obviously become harder, but still is no match for Tanjiro. This means that Tengen doesn't retire in this version either, and he isn't as badly injured as in the original version due to Tanjiro's help. At this point, Tanjiro's strength is coming closer and closer to the same level as the legendary demon slayer Yorichi. In the Swordsmith Village arc, Tanjiro easily kills Hantengu even before Mitsuri arrives, which means that Mitsuri doesn't awaken her own demon slayer mark as she doesn't get to fight. The rest of the arc plays out pretty much the same, with Muichiro, the Mist Hashira, killing Gyoko. Now in the Infinity Castle arc, Giyu and Tanjiro will fight Doma alongside Shinobu as Akaza no longer is alive to fight the two. Even before Kanao and Inosuke arrive, the Sun Hashira Tanjiro uses his immense strength to kill Doma with the help of the Insect Hashira Shinobu and Water Hashira Giyu. On the other hand, Rengoku, Tengen, Sanemi, Muichiro, Genya, and Gyome are fighting Kokoshibo together. Kokoshibo being the Upper Moon 1 demon, things won't be that easy. However, with the extra help, the fight becomes a lot more manageable for the Hashira. Because Tanjiro quickly wrapped up the fight with Doma, he's able to join the fight with Kokoshibo and eventually kill him as well. Now for the final battle against Muzan, where things are quite different from the original story. In this version, all of the original Hashira will be fighting against Muzan alongside Tanjiro. The other giant change is the fact that Tanjiro never becomes a demon in this version, as he's way out of Muzan's league. Now, one person does die, and that person is Gyome. Due to overusage of this Demon Slayer mark, Gyome dies. Everyone else would survive and the story ends on a good note. Now these theories were pretty crazy, but if you want something even crazier, click on this video to learn 44 secrets you missed in Demon Slayer.